So we will start with, and I know, Ann, I watched you over the last few days, and it truly was just terrific that you were able to join us. I know you've got another job, and still you haven't finished up over at SQ, but terrific that you've been here. I watched you introduce yourself to hundreds of people over the last 3 days, but it might be a little helpful, maybe even more efficient if you just maybe talk a little bit about your early days, what brought you to the point of being an association CEO.
Fantastic. First, good morning, everyone. And I just want to say thank you for the warm welcome. I've had an opportunity to speak with many of you, and looking forward to those I haven't caught up with. The energy in the room is apparent, and I love that. If there was ever any question in my heart as to whether or not I was in the right organization, sealed the deal. So well done, thank you. But yeah, my background, no, we're all good. My background, you'll learn quickly, I really don't like to talk much about myself, so I'm going to hit some of the high points. And that's really why you come into association management. It's about the numbers, it's about the mission. But to sum it up, first of all, I'm an Iowan. I was born and raised in Iowa. Do we have fellow Iowans or Hawkeye graduates? Okay. Special place in my heart for Iowa. I'm raised out in the farm. I know a number of you have those backgrounds, including you, Dennis, so dairy farming. We have that immediate connection. Big 4-H FFA girl, any 4-Hers? FFA? Okay. Yeah, so those are my roots. Grew up in Iowa, went to my schooling in Iowa, started as an attorney. I say I'm a recovering attorney now, but my background was primarily at that point in litigation. Quickly went in-house and took on business roles. And that's where my first kind of overlap began with operations, with quality, with finance. Did a lot of corporate development, understood value propositions. When I jumped from manufacturing, as you stated, then I went into risk management and insurance, health insurance in particular. Spent several years in that, and then really made a life decision. I love the business element, I love the innovation element, I love the people element, but quite frankly, there's something very unique about nonprofits and about membership societies because it's about advancing that mission. And so personally for me, that was that jump into membership societies. Applying your skills from a business standpoint, but looking beyond the bottom line, looking beyond numbers and looking at the people, looking what they collectively can accomplish together, and that's what drives me. So went to ASQ, as you stated, and I think we'll dig into quality a little bit later, and took that organization through significant change, really looking at how they can innovate, looking at how they can prepare themselves for the future and embrace sustainability in these dynamic times, which is, no other place has taken that than the healthcare industry right now. And I imagine most of you feel like things are coming at you from every direction. And that then led my path here. When the opportunity came up, how can I apply everything that I've learned, but make a bigger impact in an area where the people and the opportunity is even more significant. So that's my condensed speech.
Pretty good.
And I'm sure you can dig into more of that as you see necessary, Dennis.
Sure. I'm just tickled that somebody else in the room knows what FFA stands for, right?
Future Farmers of America, yes.
It's not where the cool kids hung out in my high school, but that's okay. I was one of them. And we used a search firm for the CEO search, and as many of us in the room have gotten those calls from headhunters, and they were our first contact with you. You weren't out looking, and we contacted you. And by all accounts, you were happily employed, leading a terrific association. And so we're always, when the headhunter calls, we're always faced with that binary choice. Do I go further, or do I just dismiss it? So you didn't dismiss it. You engaged. Why did you engage the company?
And that's a great question. And at first I might not have known the answer. But when I did get that initial outreach, ASQ, the society that I currently lead, we do have, as we alluded to, sections, we call them, in technical communities all over the world, but also in different practice groups. Healthcare was one of those big areas. We have a whole technical community of quality in healthcare. And so with that initial kind of outreach came, and I'll admit, I'm not for punishment. I like a challenge. I love opportunity. And quite frankly, sometimes seeing what maybe people can't see in themselves, and think beyond the present. And so what's going on in healthcare, what's going on in the finance of health and healthcare, that was appealing. And so that kind of gave you, okay, let's talk, right? But as it continued, to be completely honest, and I don't even know if I told you that, it's when I started to meet the member leaders on the search committee. And so a lot of the interview process is, right, them drilling me, let's see what she's got. But as I started to hear them talk about the future and the opportunities and the passion and the expertise, quite frankly, it was a very impressive search committee. And that started making me really interested, and then suddenly became, I want this, I see myself in this, and I am just so grateful and honored that the society is entrusting me this position going forward.
Perfect. That was what I hoped to hear. That's terrific. And you mentioned the healthcare vertical inside ASQ, and that honestly that was one of the things that gave the search committee a lot of comfort, because it is, in our 77-year history, we've never anybody from outside healthcare finance leading the association. So the fact that you had experience and passion for community adjacent fields of quality and risk management was comforting along with that healthcare vertical. So I'm wondering, after a few days here with HFMA leaders in San Antonio, does it feel as familiar as we maybe thought it would be, or less familiar? Or what are your early takes?
There's a lot of overlap, but first I'll say there's a lot I need to learn. I'm going to admit that, and I'm going to learn it from all of you and from the phenomenal team. By the way, HFMA, phenomenal staff team. I'm just starting to interact with them. Already know you guys have tremendous support. Don't take that for granted. But yeah, so background in quality and risk management, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, whether or not you have quality practices will impact your financial health as an organization. And so I'm guessing many of you have worked with lean, you've worked with root cause analysis, you've worked with all these what I'll call quality practices. But then bigger overlap for me is when you dive into what is the bigger objectivities of quality, and that's organizational excellence, and looking at the overall health, what comes from a culmination standpoint to result in success. And so our organization did a ton of not only quality practices, but looking at benchmarking, looking at systems, because you can't do things as silos. And to the point I made earlier, I'm guessing a lot of you feel like things are coming at you from all directions. Yeah, they are. And so that's not a siloed practice. That is looking at the holistic overall operations and systems management of what is going on in the industry. A lot of the strategic objectives that Joe, that the other board members presented me with, that's where things started to align. When you see the magnitude and the dynamic nature of what's going on, this isn't a siloed solution. This is looking at the overall system. This is looking at all the different factors that need to be measured, and that risk management of what are the priorities? How do we tackle things? What do we tackle? And then measuring it. And so you're going to learn I'm a data nerd. I'm one of those people that goes in. But how do we start looking at data, measuring it, and determine if things are working or not working? And sometimes you fail, right? But keep looking at these options, and those are the discussions, and those are the lessons I can't wait to hear from all of you. Because that's the beauty of these communities and associations like HFMA. You're coming together to look at problem solving. And that just excites me. And so I see that direct overlap between my background and where this organization is going, and I love it. I really love it.
That's great to hear. There are significant similarities between ASQ and HFMA, and at least in terms of the chapter structure. ASQ, I think, more than 200 chapters, 130 countries. I can't imagine the diversity you have to navigate there. Our chapter structure, and we're here at LTC with chapter leaders, so it's important, certainly to this audience. The revival part of HFMA, and as I referred to yesterday, is that chapter structure gives us the opportunity to meet local needs with a national organization and a national overall structure. But I dare say you probably had a larger challenge with ASQ. So Maybe, I'm interested in how does ASQ serve 200 chapters in multiple industries, with individuals in multiple industries, professions across 130 countries?
Yeah, so first of all, I would say that the chapters, we call them sections in technical communities, but the chapter's the same thing. They're the lifeblood of the association. If you're in the association space, the number one determinant of health is your engagement and your retention, and the number one driver of that typically is your community, sense of community, so that's all of you, that's chapters. ASQ had over 220 geographic sections and chapters, and then 27 technical communities. And so that really was a core function of what we did as a society. I love to see the energy of this group that's coming out of. That's what I'm used to. I'm going to say it's probably a little more here, but I don't want to, can't officially say that till I'm 100% in HFMA. But what some key takeaways, and every society is different. And that's why I can't wait to get on the road and talk to individuals. The one thing is to respect the culture and the local needs of chapters, but understand the greater strategic vision that everyone can accomplish together. I love the one HFMA concept. That's brilliant. I give Joe tremendous credit for the work that he's done to lead everything down this path, because it's essential, right? You're stronger together. And so understanding how do we nurture local communities, and when I say nurture, that's everything from professional development of emerging leaders, giving them the opportunity to get engaged locally and have a mentor, to things like looking how you engage between the members and what could be enterprise members of the greater community that's related to healthcare. You really are the boots on the ground, so to speak, that's making those initial impressions and connecting with people. But the challenge that ASQ had, and it's a good challenge, is when you have that many, what are you all prioritizing together, and where are the bigger needs ahead of some of those that are local, so that give and take. The other thing is when you have this robust community experience like HFMA, there's a lot of ideas out there, right? So you have a lot of opportunity to learn. And so for me at national or headquarters, I'll learn what we refer to it here at HFMA. We want to hear from you. We want to take that into account as we're thinking about next steps. So it really becomes a true partnership. But you have my word. I'm going to be listening. I'm going to be learning. Really can't wait to get out there and meet all of you. And I'm told there is a process by which you submit a request. If you want me to come visit you, please use the process. I'll throw that out there so that my staff doesn't hate me before I even begin. But I am looking forward to getting out there on the road and getting to hear from all of you.
There is a process, yes.
There is a process.
Coming from ASQ, that must be a good thing, right? We have a process.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I understand ASQ recently introduced organizational membership similar to our enterprise structure. I don't know, are you ahead or behind? I don't know, but what have you experienced with at ASQ with enterprise or organizational memberships?
So when you think about enterprise membership, organizational membership, and then the concept of individual membership, first of all, they must be aligned. You're not picking one over the other. They actually need to be integrated. They need to be sustainable. But the one thing that you have to do is listen, and the needs of enterprise members oftentimes is very different from the needs of individuals. And that's not a bad thing, because at the end of the day, the individuals are feeding into the enterprise. But you have to listen to make sure that you're providing member value to both. And sometimes that's different. And that difference isn't bad, it's just different. And so when ASQ went through this process of listening to what we call the organizational members, we learned they weren't happy with the value proposition. They weren't getting the solutions that they needed out of the society. And so there had to be a lot of soul searching. And there had to be a lot of innovative thinking in terms of, well, and how can we as a society change, respect, and keep supporting the concept of the traditional individual membership, yet also feed the needs of the enterprise and bring them together. So we went probably more drastic than most and actually divided into two organizations. One that had board and resources that catered to the individuals and the chapters and the events, and then one that was able to sit down with enterprise members and also look at what they were wanting. And at the end of the day, that key thing that was missing was benchmarking. Enterprise members wanted to know what their other enterprise members were doing, what was working, what wasn't, and what's the data. That's very different than someone that's looking to advance their career or someone that might want to get certified. But then the next challenge became, okay, so we have these different needs, how can they feed one another? Well, the beauty when you start working with enterprise members, there's a lot of data out there. And that data then can impact the individuals in terms of upskilling, in terms of what they can take back to their employer and say, hey, here's something like this. So they're separate but connected. And that's what we learned. So even if there's different needs, making sure that they're aligned, that no one feels that they're the fear of missing out or they're not being prioritized. No, that's not it. It's just looking at the greater value proposition and how you're advancing the mission together. So I'm starting to understand kind of the history of what's going on at HFMA in that area, but it's aligned with the trend to be relevant and sustainable.
That's wonderful to hear that that's what you found that there's commonality and sort of one feeds the other, and I think that's the sweet spot we've got to get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate that. Well, you were yesterday. You heard my message. I know you were sitting in the front row, and maybe a little point of personal privilege here. I'm just kind of interested in what you see. Because my belief is that something's happening here. It's maybe a perfect storm, or policy, technology, culture, necessity, whatever, or maybe feeding a point of punctuated equilibrium for ourselves. And so I'm interested in someone who's not an incumbent in healthcare finance, is not a participant in the healthcare industry today, but certainly is a consumer of healthcare. Does it feel to you like it's time?
Great speech, by the way, yesterday. Well done. So here's how I'll answer this kind of question. So I'm an early person. I don't know who's early. So if there's others that are early risers, that I can text before 7:30 without getting yelled at. But I'm an early riser. My alarm goes off, and I always snooze for 8 minutes. Let my brain catch up, breathe, get the body going, and then I get up. This morning, I did not snooze. I got right up, and I was so enthused and excited because I knew this was going on. And quite frankly, what was resonating through my mind was, it's time. And the way that all of you responded to that message, there's nothing more gratifying if you're in my seat than to walk into a room of people where they are ready to think about what's next. And that can be scary. It requires courage, but it also means that you understand what's going on in your world and you want to make a bigger impact. When I speak to everyone and when I think about my job, there are two buckets. One is member value, which I think you've heard me talk about, and the other is mission impact. And they both have to go forward together. So when you talk about it's time, that really is the call to action for that mission impact and what collectively can be accomplished. When we were talking earlier about the interview process and what pulled me in, I am so grateful for Joe, because the thing that pushed me over the edge was he introduced me to the concept of the cost effectiveness of health. And that was something that I'll say, and still is very probably particular to financial professionals in healthcare. I wasn't familiar with that term when I heard it and read it for the first time. And Joe started sharing with me the vision of what that meant and all the different determinants of factors that could go in. And a call to action really to the society to say, hey, there's a lot of problems out there. Do we want to be reactive or proactive? Do we really want to stand up as professionals and take this on? And that to me resonated. So thank Joe for why I continued on the process to introduce it. But that aligns with the it's time. And that's exciting. So even though things are coming at you from every direction, that has a negative, but the positive is you're in the position to lead everyone through it. And so, like I said, perfect theme. And maybe it was meant to be that you and I are coming to these movies. Plus, we're in our honeymoon period.
That's right.
We've not messed up yet. We
I'm
haven't
not
started.
sure yet, and you're not CEO yet. We're just
Exactly. So we can say anything right now and get a free pass. But no, that it's time is true. It's time.
I'm glad it resonates. I'm glad, and it'll be a tremendously fun journey for both of us, I think, as the year progresses. And I know leaders that I'm familiar with, they generally have kind of a playbook for success, and there's some keys to how they like to lead teams and lead organizations. And so I'm just wondering if you have, if there's a playbook in your backpack or something that says, here's how I lead. And is there anything that you want to share with the group on that front?
Of course. So number one, just my style. I'm extremely collaborative, and if you haven't guessed, very conversational. So I'll just start with that. I'm approachable. That's why I'm in the membership society role. It's to get to know, engage, and work with all of you. Now, one of the things that is unique about the association management space, and that's what I consider myself. Right? You're the subject matter experts. I'm the association management individual that's there to support you to execute our goals and to advance the society. So I will always respect and clarify those lines. But when you think about what is your strategic playbook, how are you going to do things, what's unique about associations, unlike what I would say most for-profits, it's not about me. It's not my playbook. It's your strategy. And we come up with that together. And the tools of how we execute that, how the board works together to look to the future, right? That really becomes the mini playbook. That every society has a strategic plan. That is the North Star. That is where we're all going together. So my playbook, so to speak, from day one is to taking these tremendous goals and opportunities and putting in place ways that we can actually achieve them. And that element of empowerment. I truly believe the people in this room, the people in the industry have the ability to make a difference. My job is to make sure that the tools are in place to get us there.
Perfect. Thank you. That's exactly what I remember hearing in the interview process. Anything you'd like us to maybe help or do for you, with you, as you approach the first day on June 1st?
First day, I will just say, like I said, this support and just giving you the time to get to know you and sharing your thoughts, that's going to be critical. Just getting on board. But this society isn't going to necessarily change because of me. We're going to keep progressing. I have big shoes to fill, obviously, and that's going to involve a lot of learning. But at the same time, I hope, because of my kind of tangential experience and what I've gone through with my society, that can be beneficial to some of the questions you have on what's next. I can give you options. We can look at, are we performing the right way as a society? How have we embraced as a society things like digital transformation, DEI and B? I throw in the B. I know the DEI initiative kicked off here. I throw in the B because of belonging, right? Because of you, community is a critical part of association. So do people feel like they belong at HFMA? And so are we as a society, not just the industry, are we as a society adopting those practices in a way that makes us efficient and sustainable, quite frankly, having fun? It's a volunteer organization. I know all of you have day jobs. You devote so much time and energy to this cause. It should be enjoyable. And by the way, this is National Volunteer Week. I think Joe mentioned that yesterday. So thank you, applause to you. We make our society, and there would be no society without the volunteers. And so that element of not only what's going on in the industry with the professionals, but are we performing at headquarters and talking the talk and walking the walk?
Right. Well, thank you for that. So I thought it'd be fun to just kind of do a few lightning round questions, and maybe as we wrap up here. But so we'll start with a couple of easy ones. iPhone or Samsung?
iPhone.
iPhone. No green bubbles. Everyone likes it. Okay. Would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast? Book. Any favorites?
I'm in the classics. My mother was an English teacher, public school English teacher. So I'll be honest, every year I'm rereading Cold Blood, Catcher in the Rye, Pride and Prejudice. And then I'll do the current releases too. too. But I've got those classics, yeah, I keep funneling through.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, so we'll look forward to sort of following your lead on reading classes with you. Here's maybe one will take a little bit of thought, but so if your life was a story, what would it be titled?
Oh boy. So this will say something about per se, eat all the foods. I'm a foodie, but embracing that no matter what opportunities come, I look at it, enjoy it. So eat all the foods, that's going to be my theme.
Oh, terrific. Well, I like you even better now. That's good. Favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving, food, again.
Here's a tough one because you can't please everybody. Are you a dog or a cat person? Or neither.
Cat.
Cat.
My cat runs my life. Yeah.
A few cats, cat lovers. What chore do you absolutely despise?
So playing off the food, cleaning wine glasses. That would be the worst chore.
Okay, that's pretty good. Let's see. Do you use emojis? Do you have
Is this a trick question? Yes, I do.
So what's your favorite one? What do you use the most?
Probably the laughing one.
Laughing.
Is it the laugh out loud? Is that the one, the laugh out loud?
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific. Do you have a favorite place to shop?
You're going to see a theme again, farmers markets, because of the food. No, I'm a farmers market junkie.
Okay, terrific. Terrific. I think I know the answer to this, but just for everybody's figure art, are you more an explorer or a homebody?
Explorer.
Yeah, you were describing to me last night, I think, hiking to Machu Picchu.
Yeah, my last trip, I was fortunate enough to give a speech in Lima, Peru, right before the government imploded, and decided to do the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. It got a little hairier than expected when the government shut down, but yeah, it was an adventure. It truly was an adventure.
Let's see, beach or mountains?
How about mountains that lead to a beach?
Mountains.
That would be good.
That's a both and kind
Yeah,
of answer.
yeah.
Okay, last question. What's at the very top of your bucket list?
I really want to go to the Mount Everest base camp. So that bucket list item that I would say, yeah.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Anne, thank you. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with this august body this morning?
I'm thrilled to be here. I understand what an honor it is to lead this organization. I'm going to do everything I can to live up to what Joe started and your expectations. But I'm looking forward to what's next. There's tremendous opportunity with this organization because of what is going on in the industry. And the difference between thriving associations in this day and age, because I'll be honest, it's a tough time for associations. A lot of them are dealing with low numbers, low engagement. This society is growing. We heard yesterday cracked 100,000. Wow, I'm going to talk to you. But thinking big, right? Thinking about that greater mission. I can't wait. So I look forward to the partnership, and truly thank you for the warm welcome that I've received so far.
Terrific, Anne. Well, I know I speak for everyone in this room when I say we are thrilled equally to have you here, and I think we hopefully have shown a hospitable welcome to you already, and we'll continue to do that. We're all looking